Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Wednesday, May 7th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 536 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we got a couple different New York Jets topics to discuss. I wanted to break down and react to the New York Jets being ranked 30th in the NFL in ESPN's post-draft power rankings, give you my thoughts on that and why I think that ranking is a little too low for this New York Jets team as we currently sit here in May, just a couple weeks now after the draft. And I also want to dive into Allen Lazard on the trade block. Big trade earlier today in the NFL. George Pickens goes from the Steelers to the Cowboys, creating a void behind DK Metcalf in that Steelers wide receiver room, with the rumors swirling and the possibility of Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh. Could the New York Jets deal Lazard there? Is that a potential trade destination landing spot if the Jets do decide to move on from Allen Lazard? We'll break that down in today's episode. As always, though, before we begin, we got to tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. If you want to get in on any of the sports betting action, check out BetUS and use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek, if you want to get out to the hottest and get the hottest tickets in sports or entertainment, check out SeatGeek and use my promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. MLB is in full swing. NFL schedule released 1 week from today. You got NHL, NBA playoffs. So any ticket you want, SeatGeek has it. Bubs on Sports, $20 off your first purchase. And of course, our friends over at Huga House. If you want any of their awesome selection of hats and sweatshirts, check them out. Code BUBS for 15% off and get yourself some awesome Huga House merch. So here we go. Episode 536. Thank you as always for tuning in. I wanted to break down a couple different things here in our midweek episode. Wanted to start here before we get to the Allen Lazard stuff, of course, and the possibility of that trade going down for this Jets team if that's a direction they decide to move into, with rumors swirling about him going to Pittsburgh now. Of course, the clear Rodgers connection if that move also happens. But earlier this week, ESPN released their power rankings, their post-draft power rankings. And I thought where the Jets were placed was a little too low, in my opinion, and wanted to discuss it and where I think the New York Jets should be instead. So here it was, the New York Jets, they ranked them 30th in the NFL, only ahead of the Titans, who are 32nd, and the Giants, who are 31st. And they are only one spot ahead of the Browns, who are 29th. So they're right in the clump of the 3 teams last year to only win 3 games. Now, what I found was interesting, and the viewers watching this on YouTube can see it on the screen, their post-free agency ranking was 27th. So they actually dropped a couple spots post-draft to where they are now, which is 30th, which I think would be the opposite. If anything, I think their free agency would have dropped them and their draft would have brought them back up. But either way, this is it. This is what Rich Cimini, who wrote a quick couple quick sentences on where the Jets currently stand. Quote, quite frankly, the Jets haven't made significant immediate improvement in any one area, but the offensive line improved in the long term as number 7 pick Armand Membu replaces Morgan Moses at right tackle. The Jets will miss Moses' experience and savviness, but Membu brings power, speed, and explosiveness to the position. With 4 returning starters and Membu, the offensive line under construction for a few years, finally has a chance to be something special. That was Samini on what he believes is the most improved position on this New York Jets team, which is the offensive line. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that the New York Jets are going to win 14 games this year. The New York Jets are going to win 12 games. The New York Jets are going to win 13 games. I'm not going to sit here and even say the New York Jets are going to finish above 500. Heck, even get to 8 wins, get to 9 wins, right? Even get double-digit wins. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I do believe that putting the Jets at 30th right now in the NFL and essentially saying, as we currently sit, this is a roster that is going to be in a position to net the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft next season, and essentially saying that right now the way this team is constructed is going to win 3 games, in my opinion, just doesn't add up. I also just think this team is simply better than the Browns, and I'd also even say that you can make the case they should obviously even be in front of the Saints potentially. So just a couple spots higher than being clumped with a bunch of 3-win teams and basically saying they will have a top 3 pick next year. I don't think this team is that bad. Now, Vegas's over-under win total is at 5.5. And I know when you look at this Jets roster, as we kind of break down this now, nothing really pops out crazy, right? You know, last year, the last 2 years, of course, it was all the whole Rodgers thing and all these veterans that they were bringing in and all this talent. But I think you look at this team right now and you look at the way things are constructed, one of the biggest areas of where this team actually improved in this offseason, or hopefully improved in, I mean, you look at where this team was last year. They had the worst coaching staff in the NFL. They fired their general manager in the middle of the season. They had a bunch of aging veterans that were not playing up to their standard, the back of their playing card, were all completely washed. They were the worst coach team in football. I think we could just start there. If Aaron Glenn and this coaching staff is even just average in year number 1, they are a significant improvement to what was the worst coaching staff in the NFL last year by a long shot. Arguably one of the worst coach teams I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's saying something because we've seen a lot of bad coaching as Jets fans. You also look at just some of like those specific veterans. I mean, Hassan Reddick was a disaster. Javon Kinlaw was a disaster. Solomon Thomas, Chuck Clark. You, of course, moved on from Mike Williams in the middle of the year. Tyron Smith didn't work out. Now you get a full year of Olu. You pair him with Armand Membu, right? And you look at this Jets offensive line, it has potential to be a top 12, top 10 unit. How many teams in the NFL are top 10 units or have a top 12 offensive line that win 3 games, that are a bottom 5 team in football? Not many. Not many at all. This team, in my opinion, I just don't agree with this position. And I think there is a lot of areas that you can actually look and say they improved in. I know Aaron Glenn hasn't even coached a game, right? And you have a lot of questions, but look how bad this coaching staff was last year. Even if they're just slightly better, that's an improvement. Look at what they were doing. Saleh fired middle of the year. It's not even just Saleh. Nate Hackett. You then bring in Downing to call plays. That was a mess. You changed the play call. Keith Carter was a disaster. Those guys are gone. You know, part of this Jets team, I think in a little way, is addition by subtraction, right? Letting Hassan Reddick, Javon Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas, some of those aging veterans that just weren't providing anything last year, letting those guys walk out the door in some ways is actually an addition. Just getting those guys out of this team, out of this locker room, you know, just moving on, right? You even look at the way this offensive run. I think you can look at this Jets team and say that there is a legitimate chance that they actually have an identity on offense. What was the identity on offense last year for this team? There was none. There was none at all, especially late in the season where it was basically Aaron Rodgers, let me audible out of every single run play and throw a 50-50 ball to Devontae Adams as I chase my 500th touchdown. That's what it turned into. It was basically an AAU team every single weekend. It was the Aaron Rodgers show. For once, this team should actually, hopefully, build an identity, run the football, be a downhill, we're going to run it at you type of team, not just with this running back room with, Breece, Braylon, and Isaiah Davis, but also utilizing Justin Fields' legs as one of the better mobile running quarterbacks in the NFL. How about the kicking situation? Can that not get a little bit better this year? I mean, Greg Zuerlein was awful. Just an average kicker improves this team. Same thing with the coaching. If Glenn and this coaching staff is even just average in year one, they are significantly better than what we saw last year. And during the entire Robert Saleh tenure, which his coaching staff was a disaster. And of course, the disastrous Jeff Ulbrich interim run that he had last season. And I think these power rankings don't really encapsulate just how bad it was last year. And I also think there is a lot of, from the national standpoint, a lot of people look at the Jets and look at the names that they lost. But when you didn't actually see every single game, and when you actually watch every snap and watch every single game like we did and like many other Jet fans did, and you really see the issues on this team last year, they got rid of a lot of their biggest problems. Like, I know a lot of people are going to look and say, oh, they got rid of Aaron Rodgers, and oh, Devontae Adams out the door as well. But if you actually watch the games and you see what this team could potentially do with Fields at quarterback and the way they could build this offense and the identity that could finally be built on offense, the drop-off between what we got last year out of Rodgers and Fields really shouldn't drop off. Like, shouldn't be the difference between this team being a top 3 pick, if that makes sense. It's really, when you break down Fields and Rodgers and you break down some of the numbers, they're not even that crazy far off. I think a lot of people look at, Hassan Reddick. You look at the contract Kinlaw got, and a lot of people see, those guys left the Jets. Yeah, but they were massive, massive disappointments on this Jets team that you're getting rid of, which, like I said, in some ways is addition by subtraction, just getting some of these pieces that were doing absolutely nothing out of this team, off of this roster. You also get Jermaine Johnson back this year. You added a little bit in this secondary, which is a good thing. Your safety room improved. It got better with the Andre Sisco signing. It got better drafting Malachi Moore. You drafted an intriguing cornerback prospect in Azareye'h Thomas. Mason Taylor has a higher floor than whatever veteran tight end you would have brought in, or brought back Tyler Conklin. Still have some questions about this receiving room, of course. But I think you can easily also say, if you use the tight end a lot more and you actually utilize Breece Hall the way he should be utilized, you can make the case that your leading receivers are Garrett, Breece, and then Taylor. And your fourth leading receiver is probably then your wide receiver too, with the way this offense could be constructed. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a team that's going to win 11, 12 games. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. I don't think this team's, I don't think this team's going to make the playoffs. But to say that they're the 30th best team in the NFL, to say that they're going to land a top 3 pick, to say that they're going to be 2 wins worse than last year. And I know Vegas has them at 5.5, but I don't see this team as a 3-4 win team. I see it more as a competitive 6-8, maybe a 9, but most likely probably 6-8, 7-8 more so range area win team where they're competitive. Not like last year where it was just a train wreck. That's really what I say. I don't think they're a 3-win team. I don't think they're that bad. I don't really think you look at this team from last year to this year and say they got 2 wins worse. I don't see that, in my opinion. I think people just do realize, some people, like, how bad it was last year. Everything that went on last season. You just improve slightest bit in certain areas. And some of that is by just getting rid of what they had, getting rid of that coaching staff, blowing that up, getting rid of those veterans, not bringing them back. Like, those are things that can actually help this team. It doesn't necessarily have to always be bringing in other guys. It can sometimes just be moving on from certain pieces that actually helps you. And that's a lot of ways what they did. So that's my take on the ESPN Power Rankings. And there's also still talent on this team, too. I mean, we can't just sit here and look at this Jets roster and say, oh, there's no talent. I mean, Garrett Wilson's a stud. Breece Hall, I still believe in. You have a legitimate offensive line. We've talked about it a ton. We all know what that offensive line looks like from left to right. Will McDonald's coming off a career year. Jermaine Johnson, I know you want to see what he can do after the torn Achilles, but this is a guy, if he's healthy, is only getting better. Quinnen Williams is still a piece to this defense that you can be excited about. Jamie and Sherwood, new contract. You still have Sauce with Aaron Glenn now. I mean, there's Michael Carter, who was dealing with an injury all of last year. Can he have a bounce back season? Who signed an extension last offseason? Right? Quincy Williams as well. There's still talent on this team. There's a lot more talent on this team than when the previous regime took over. And that's why I just don't see them winning 3-4 games. I mean, come on now. And they're better. So that's my take on the ESPN Power Rankings. Wanted to throw this out there as well. Earlier today, we heard that George Pickens, big trade across the NFL landscape. George Pickens gets dealt from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys get a number 2 to pair alongside CeeDee Lamb. And from the Steelers' perspective, after bringing in DK Metcalf this offseason, you now move on from Pickens. You started to hear some rumors about it, where there's smoke, there's fire. That was the case in this situation. So, of course, with that happening, always some way, somehow, there's always got to be some sort of connection to the Jets. You break it down, it's pretty easy to see where this comes from. Pickens gone. Steelers could look to add a receiver. You have the Aaron Rodgers kind of thing still hovering over that team. When is he going to sign? Is he going to sign? All of that happening. And Allen Lazard's name got popped up. You move on from Pickens. You need another receiver. The possibility of Rodgers coming in, wanting one of the guys that he potentially played with. Insert Allen Lazard. So he is now not the center of trade rumors, but has now been thrown around as a trade candidate here for the New York Jets. And I talked about Lazard about a month ago when his contract got restructured early in April. And I said that I didn't think that him restructuring his contract necessarily meant 100% that he would still be on this roster. Right now, he took an $8.5 million pay cut. He was scheduled to make $11 million this year. Now it's down to $2 million. His cap number, his cap hit was originally $13.2 million. It dropped to $4.6 million, and he guaranteed $1.75 million now in that contract. But I was saying is I think a lot of people saw that restructured contract and said, okay, he's staying. I still didn't believe that. I still believe that restructured contract was more so if he does stay, okay, you restructured it, less of a hit this year. And in a world where he doesn't stay, it's easier to move on and get that money off the books, and you're not taking and you're not swallowing as much as you would have if you didn't restructure. And I still could see a world here, too, where the New York Jets deal Allen Lazard, and the Pittsburgh Steelers now become, of course, a pretty realistic landing spot for him, where Aaron Rodgers, if he signs there, Steelers could use another body. You just moved on from George Pickens. Rodgers, Lazard, close. We don't need to go down why it makes sense for that side, why you could see this deal happening. And I've said it. If they decided to move on from Lazard, fine. I'm okay with it. Like, I've gotten to the point now with Allen Lazard, whatever happens, happens. If they keep him, okay. I don't love it. If they trade him, all right. Like, we know what Lazard is at this point. We know where this receiver room's at this point. If they value Lazard and value him being a veteran presence, whatever. If you move on and, take a day 3 pick for him, totally fine with that as well. 26 games played as a Jet, 60 receptions, 109 targets, 841 yards, 14 yards per reception, 7 touchdowns. We know the drops have been a massive issue for Lazard. 5 in 2023. He had 8 more last year, so that's 13 in 2 seasons with the Jets, 13 in 26 games. He's been a disaster. He's been awful. And I could still see this being a case, too, with the Jets where maybe they wait on an Allen Lazard trade where you keep Lazard and you go into training camp. And let's say you like what you're seeing from Arian Smith, or I don't know, there's a guy that's popping off. Arian Smith maybe having a great camp, or Josh Reynolds is having a good camp, or whatever. And you start to see some positives out of some of this receiver room. And you're like, okay, now we can move on from Lazard. I could still see that being a possibility. While it's a rumor right now, I could see this being something, and I mentioned this in our last episode when they restructured his contract, being where if the rest of this offseason and into training camp, even maybe OTAs, if they see some things out of the rest of this receiving core that they are like, okay, this guy can maybe do something for us, can play a bigger role than maybe you originally expected, that's where I think the Lazard trade window can definitely open a lot more than it is now. So, look, I mean, if you get a day 3 pick for Allen Lazard, you take it. I mean, you do. I mean, to get any capital for him with the way he's played. But if they value him enough and you keep him, it is what it is, I guess, at that point. But it feels like something could be happening. And you connect the dots, and it makes a lot of sense for why this trade could go down. And if you can get value for him, you take it, you move on, and you work with what you have in the rest of this receiver room. I mean, I think you look at a possibility right now for the New York Jets, dealing Allen Lazard, and then getting some value back, getting a day 3 pick, a 6th, 7th round pick, something like that, maybe a pick swap, whatever. And then you can turn that Allen Lazard trade into trading for Romeo Doubs. That to me would be like a home run. Essentially, you flip Allen Lazard, who is has been awful. You flip him for a young, higher upside wide receiver 2 option, Romeo Doubs, coming over from Green Bay, who has been linked to the Jets as a possible trade candidate. If that's something the New York Jets can do, that would be awesome. And I could see a world where that happens, where you deal Lazard to Pittsburgh, and then you go out and maybe make a trade for Romeo Doubs and bring him in as essentially your Lazard replacement, which would be 100% you do that any day of the week if you're the New York Jets. So it'll be interesting to see. I think there is going to be much more movement as the weeks and months go on here. As we enter into the summer and the weather gets warmer and we hit OTAs, you're going to start to see some more movement with this New York Jets wide receiver core. And I know a lot of people talk about some of these veterans that are on the open market free agent wise. I think if the New York Jets are going to make changes, I think it's going to be via trade. I think it's going to be moving on from, trading Lazard and then trading for a Romeo Doubs or somebody like that. And if Darren Muji can do that, get value back for Lazard and then go and make a move for somebody like a Doubs to essentially fill his spot, that'd be awesome. I think you take that all day. So something to think about if something like this would happen. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts? You believe the New York Jets are the 3rd worst team in the NFL? Do you believe that when all said and done, this can be a 3-win team that gets a top 3 pick? Or are you kind of where I stand and think they will be better than what they were last year? Not a playoff team, but better than what these power rankings are showing. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And also let me know your thoughts on the possibility of the New York Jets moving on from Allen Lazard. So we will talk to you guys soon. Want to get a video up on some of the Romeo Doubs stuff. We'll break that down Also want to do some other episodes, so stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. You got rookie minicamp on Friday through Sunday, so we'll have a ton of content over the weekend covering that. So stay tuned. Appreciate all the support. Until next time, JETS. Jets, Jets, Jets.